She doesn't even go here.
I'm bi, actually.
Excuse me. Could the ugly, untalented gays please report to the principal's office?
Hi, I'm Kurt Hummel, and I'll be auditioning for the role of kicker.
Hello.
Was
Welcome,
that a good one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to Not So Straight Nerds. I'm your host, Alicia.
And I am your other host, Luke, your more composed host, if you will. Someone's having a freak out over there.
I'm
I don't
crashing
know
out.
why.
I'm actively crashing out because of you. We all know why. Anyways, so today we are talking about Andor, episodes 7 through 9. I was thinking originally that we were going to wait to do the whole part 2 of the season, but then these 3 episodes were pretty good.
There was a lot to talk about in that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like it's a good time to talk about it. And there's less to talk about with episode 4 of The Last of Us. But, I don't know, still some good things. So, we're gonna do some chatting. But first, how's the vibe?
The vibe check?
What are we doing?
I got some free food. And I
Oh,
brought you
that's
some
always
free
great.
food.
Yeah.
So we love food that we don't
Exactly.
have to pay for. So I'm vibing.
Yeah.
So is our manager, Roxy.
Our manager is also crashing out. She is a cat. So, it is what it is.
Indeed.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I also feel good. I'm excited. I will say, I'm still excited more for our upcoming episodes that we're doing than this one. But I am
Sure.
excited to actually, enjoy and have some pros to Andor season 2. So, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this episode, at least in the regard to the Andor episodes,
Yeah.
it feels a lot more focused.
Yeah.
And I'm actually very excited to talk about Andor.
Yeah. Slay. Well,
So that being said, I guess we can just
Jump right in.
into it.
to our non-spoiler section.
Yes.
Because there are spoilers.
Yes,
There are a lot of things that happen. When I tell you that first half of the season is just like a drag. And then I feel like I still very much felt the runtime for all 3 of these episodes. But I don't know. It's like at least I enjoyed what I was watching. Unlike feeling the time in the first 6 episodes or whatever it was. And it wasn't good.
I just want to throw this idea out there and see kind of how you feel about it. But do you think possibly a reason that the show runtime feels so minute by minute, do you think it could be because the subject matter that they try to tackle is really heavy, and at least that they take it very seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very serious show. It doesn't have a ton of comedy, and I mean, especially these 3 episodes, it shouldn't, because that's not the point of what's happening here. But I don't know, it's that, and also just the fact that the release model is just so horrible. I hate this release model so much. I don't know. It worked really well for Spider-Man, but also those were shorter episodes, and those were a lot more fun, or they had some comedy in it even when they had serious moments. It had a completely different tone than Andor does. And so I feel like you just can't have this release model. You got to do weekly. You can't do a binge. You have to understand what your show is and how people are going to respond to it, and then figure out, okay, how do we release this? Can we afford to, and will people want to, binge 3 episodes a week? And probably not, because
I think not at the time they're releasing it. I really
No.
actually think if they did
it needs to
the
do an
midnight
all-day
release that they used to do for
Yes.
some of these Disney Plus shows, I think this would be a perfect one to watch throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree. But that's not what they're doing. Hopefully they learn their lesson. So,
Yeah, and then another
We'll see.
question I kind of want to pose in that similar vein.
mm-hmm.
Do you think there is a show that takes itself so seriously? And I'm not even saying that as against the show, because it is choosing to cover some very serious and what some would say some very real and very relevant topics that I think a lot of people want to see explored. Do you think that there's a way for a show like that does weigh really heavy and it's supposed to hit really close to home for a lot of people? Do you think there's a way to have a show like that kind of lose people in the episode in a way that I would say we both are not? The way, we were saying, we can really feel the time clicking on these episodes. Do you think there's a way, or can you think of a show that's done that?
I will say, And it's, maybe it's recency bias, but I'm thinking of Severance just because I feel like every episode, I never wanted it to end. Like, even if it felt like it had gone on for an hour, there was always something to look forward to. There was always something next that I was really, really interested in. I wanted to see what direction they were taking. And I have to wonder if that's partially because we didn't know what was going to happen. And Andor,
Okay.
I mean, technically we do know, like, the end of it. I don't think that's as big of a deal because there are still things within the show that we don't know are going to happen. Like, what
Even
exactly?
look at these 3 episodes.
Exactly.
They gagged us.
Yeah, they sure did. I don't know. Maybe, and it's not that I don't care because obviously some really sad things happen, and I liked the 3 episodes, but I don't know. I guess I don't feel as connected to any of these characters versus Severance. I like some of the characters, but not quite in the same vein as Severance.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel just like I'm watching something unfold that has already happened and that I'm not as connected to. And I feel like Severance is way different. Like, I care about the characters. I care about what happens to them. I don't know what's going to happen to them. And so I'm rooting for them. And I've invested time. And the buildup was so much stronger. So, I don't know. I feel like it had a lot of buildup, but I guess I didn't care about the buildup. And so the payoff is, like, enjoyable to watch, but it just feels like it's not a payoff. It's like, okay, we're finally getting to a decent show. Like,
it is
I don't
weird.
know.
I feel like with the build-up, I think episodes 1 through 6 of this season feel so much like build-up.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, some of those things I think could just not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if they just told me that these things were happening and we started here, like, we'd be golden.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to think, would I feel all the things I feel for some of the things that happen if we didn't have some parts of those episodes? Because like I was saying in the last episode we did on Andor, a lot of these characters from season 1 that were introduced in season 1,
Yeah.
I didn't really feel any sort of way with them watching them in season 1. You come to this episode and I actually feel very attached to a lot of these characters. And so there's 2 big things that happen in these episodes that really hit me, actually.
Yeah.
So, but I do wish that the build-up for them was more eventful, or maybe there was better stuff around it. It just feels like you can have build-up for some parts of your story, but it feels like the whole purpose of the entire first half of this season was build-up. And not even setup, just build-up. Of like, oh, you see these characters.
Things are happening.
You see these characters.
Yep.
You see this characters. This thing happens to the character. What?
Oh, I hear sirens.
Oh my gosh.
They're coming to
for us.
Yeah, they're coming to arrest us for our, like, crazy opinions. Sorry, guys. I have another theory that I thought about when you were talking about that.
Yeah, go for it.
So I feel like with Severance, so many of they do so much character building, and within that they connect it to the story really well. It's not, most of the time it's not just like an episode just to build up the character, and then the next episode the main plot actually resumes. It's like the plot is always moving, and then they're adding chunks that are so connected to that main plot, again, for the most part, throughout the story. And I feel like Andor, because I don't, like, they didn't
It feels like the character work isn't tied into the overall plot. I think
no,
that's a
it's
really
just
good
like
point.
these things are happening, and I'm like, but I don't care about what's happening because I don't care about any of the characters on screen right now. Like, let's do some stuff with the characters to make me like them. Kind of like, and those were kind of the highlights of these 3 episodes for me, is when they did that. Like with Cassian and Bix, that whole thing. They did a lot with Cassian, but also Cassian and Bix as a couple. And then the redhead lady, I keep reading her name. Yeah. They did, like, her whole speech being connected to the story and affecting the story so much. It was great because it was adding to her character and the overall story. So, I don't know. I just wish it did that more. I also feel like, you know, with Severance, they have some good villains. They have some obnoxious villains. This show certainly has both. But, again, I feel like they don't care about those characters aren't taking time to explore them as people in a way that makes me care about them like I do with Severance. So
That's
I don't
interesting.
know.
There's actually a conversation I want to have spinning out of the relationship this show wants to like portray with its villains.
Yeah.
They did something really interesting in these episodes, and I think we feel, I think, a similar way about it, but I think you feel more negatively about it than I do.
Okay.
Because I think the way that we're feeling is intentional.
Yeah.
And I think there's a statement about it that I want to get into a little later.
Yeah.
But real quick before we move on, I wanted to say, in like the vein of talking about this project that's like trying to cover some really heavy topics.
Yeah.
Something that keeps coming to mind, to my mind anyways, is, oh my god, I feel embarrassed. Why can't I remember what it's called?
You can't remember?
It was the Oscar-nominated film 2 years ago. It was the one with Sandra Fuller.
Oh. Oh, I know what you're talking about. But I don't know the name. So I guess I don't know it.
What was her name? I have to go. Sandra Hüller. The movie you were in that was nominated was Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
It reminds me.
I never saw that. That's still on my list.
I did watch
Ugh.
it. It's.
I've heard it's good.
I think it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it with one of our friends who is not super into like the film sphere.
Okay.
So it's very much about people trying to live this ordinary life and like trying to having these modern day problems, your career issues, your house problems, raising kids, and like all of the stuff about that in a house right outside of the Auschwitz camp.
Oh.
So the entire movie, it's this ordinary German family talking about
I remember
their
that
life.
now. Mm-hmm.
All the while, you hear like screams and people on the other side of this wall right next to them, and
Yeah.
you see them like fertilizing their flower bed with ash from the camp, and it's
Ugh.
you know, if you're not looking at it as a piece of art as to
Right.
what this movie is saying and how it relates literally to the things that are happening today, you know, it can seem like a movie where things are just happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is similar in that vein.
Okay.
Where obviously it's trying to connect to a lot of real world stuff. I think it's almost crazy how much it's tying into real world stuff. You almost
And
have
how
to
bold
wonder,
Disney is with that in their language. I was surprised to hear a
Sure.
certain word that we'll talk about. It was very powerful. There's actually two words that have been very shocking to people, to viewers of the show, that they use. And that's when a certain character gets assaulted and she says what it is,
Yeah.
what almost happened. And then what actually happened in one of these episodes, another tragic event, they actually say what it is, which is very powerful considering so many people. I'm trying to be vague because we're in the non-spoiler section, but we are talking about world events as well. So it's like, it was shocking to me that Disney of all people was admitting what was happening.
Well, it feels like this show was either going to go there or it wasn't going to exist.
Yeah.
Which you have to regardless, you have to give it credit for that. And
Yeah.
I think, especially in that last episode, a lot of people are saying 8 was the peak episode.
Okay.
I actually disagree. I think episode 8 has a really big weak point for me.
Okay.
Especially towards the end, which makes it end sort of on a sour note for me.
Okay.
But the episode 9, I think, is actually super strong.
Yeah.
And one of the strongest themes from it is talking and putting a name to the thing that, like, the political sphere doesn't want you to say.
Yeah.
And I think talking about how there's so much power in what the people in charge don't want you to say.
Yep.
And what they expect you to believe and act like.
Yep.
And I think they made some really great points.
Yeah. So I
we'll
totally
get-
agree.
we'll
We'll
get
get
into
in.
that in the
Yeah, more
specifics.
specifics. Yeah.
So in this vein, do we want to go through? I listed my pros and cons list. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
start
I
if you
feel
want.
like I'll just piggyback off that if I need to, but yeah, we'll just go through it.
So my pros list is these episodes especially. For the first time in this whole series, I really feel like it is a precursor to Rogue One.
Yes.
Like, you really
I
start
agree.
seeing things take shape as to the Cassian Andor we see in that movie. You can really start feeling the weight of something to come, which is clearly very intentional, but I don't think cheesy at all. It feels actually really well done.
Yeah, I agree.
And it feels almost like a ticking clock has started, which is a really interesting feeling to have in the show.
Yeah.
So, really...
It's like we're getting the ball rolling on the build-up, finally, towards Rogue One. It's like we have a lot of build-up, a lot we didn't care about, and now we're finally here. We're finally seeing the pieces slowly start to fit together, and I think that's great.
Yeah. And another thing is, I don't think it's a problem that I didn't care about this stuff beforehand. Like, in the first 6 episodes, I think maybe the problem to me is that it just doesn't feel important. It's like, even right now, it feels like they could have been doing almost anything, and I still could have gotten to where we were. So they could have done something more interesting, or been showing us less of what they were and showing us something else that was more interesting.
Yeah.
It's just, it's very interesting, he says, for like the 5th time in a row.
But yeah, it is.
It's an interesting choice as to, is there a reason they decided to do like a more mundane start for a lot of these characters? It's, I don't know. It's inherently, I feel like this show is smart on so many ways. And I would just love to see like HBO shows have a breakdown about how and why they do a bunch of stuff. And I'd be very interested to hear that for this series, like episode by episode.
Well, and I always found a super compelling part of Star Wars to be the like numerous amount of people and factors within the rebellion that made up the rebellion. A lot of the times I didn't even like know the other person was involved. Like, there's just so many little like chess pieces that just came together at the right time, and I think that's one of the coolest things to explore.
Sure.
And so maybe that's why I'm disappointed, is because I feel like we're just now getting to the point where I'm like, I can see the pieces. Why did it take this long to get here? It's like, I don't know. The character work, they had some, but it just wasn't interesting enough for me to be like, I don't know. It's like what you said. I just don't care about what they thought I would care about, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't know what they were doing.
But, and then I also said in my pros, they are clearly trying to start some very real and very important conversations that obviously reflect into the real world. And I super give credit to a show like this trying to do that.
Yeah.
I'm very clearly the people who were always on the train of this show love it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what this show was, and the very strong fans that it has.
Yes.
Who were gonna stand by this either way.
Yeah.
But they have some really strong ammunition in their belt for defending the show with the bold strikes they made just in this episode.
Yeah.
In these 3 episodes.
I agree.
So, love to see it. And then I said the visuals also really stood out to me these episodes.
Yeah.
Specifically, the first shots of all of these episodes. I remember it would like get away from the really boring logo. Sorry, catching some strays, but and then it would have a first establishing shot of something. And each episode, I was like, "Whoa, this is
great.
gorgeous."
Yeah.
So, love that, especially since not all of the scenes look particularly great. I'm gonna say especially, I think, on Gorman. I think Gorman is a really boring, like, visually planet.
I agree.
So, I enjoy it where I can, considering so much of the show to this point has taken place on Gorman.
Yeah. They had some interesting things go down, though.
For sure. I also put one of my pros is I felt a lot of emotion this episode. And I honestly would not have guessed last week that I would feel this much about this show. So
both of us actually like cried in the 9th episode. It was kind of crazy. I was like, I can't even remember the last time a movie or TV show made me cry. I mean, I remember like Thunderbolts got me close a few times, but man, this one actually made me shed a couple tears. I was like, okay, you got me. You got me, fine. And that's great. That's what it should be, because that means you're connected enough to these characters to care about what's happening to them. So, yeah.
And then also...
You should yap about something for a hot minute because I need to go. BRB.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Allow me to yap your ears off, audience. It's just me and you. So, another thing I put on my pros and cons list is personally, I remember seeing online that a lot of people were in love with episode 8. Going into it, both me and Alicia heard that episode 8 was one of those peaks of the season, if not the peak of this season. So I was really interested to see what that episode was like. And then we watched it, and I think it is very, very strong until one of the plot lines kind of fumbles really hard at the end. And it fumbles really hard in a way that they can't come back from it later.
Okay. I'm really... Can you, try to say what that is without being spoilery? I have no idea what you're talking about. I must have just forgotten something.
No, you know it. It's...
I just don't know what you're... Yeah, I just don't know what you're talking about specifically.
And we'll get into it, but it's the one thing that left a sour note for me personally coming out of that episode, and it's one of the biggest notes that it ends on.
Ooh.
And it felt very so much was happening, and this is what I'm stuck with, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Not in the fact that it's... Because obviously it's an episode that's supposed to, strike a really powerful chord, and I think those chords still hit. But it's a very different note, and there were some things they could have done or explored, which I thought was really interesting, but then they didn't. So... And not only did they say no, they did a thing that prevents it from ever being explored later.
Oh.
So, and we'll talk about that.
I might know. I have an idea of what you're talking about. But we can't. Yeah, it's hard to say without.
And then episode 9 happened.
Yes.
And I think it is a great follow-up to everything that happens in episode 8. And I think everything they were trying to do in that episode really, really works for me.
Yeah.
So, that's my hot take. I think episode 9 is a masterpiece, and I would say probably my favorite episode of this entire show so far. Ooh, actually, that's a lie. The breakout, yeah. But this is definitely my second favorite episode of the whole series.
Low-key, I feel like I kind of agree with that. It gives me episode 9. I feel like it gives me some of my favorite parts of Revenge of the Sith, which is the dialogue and the character interactions, and I just love it. It just feels so Star Warsy, and I love that. I love when a Star Wars show feels like it's in the Star Wars universe. So crazy, I know, but I didn't feel it at all in the first 6 episodes. So, yeah, I totally agree.
And then my last pro that I listed out was that Mon Mothma and Bix are MVPs of this season overall.
Yeah, but definitely the 9th episode as well.
For sure.
So,
I really liked...
It was too great.
And like I said, I didn't feel a whole lot for Bix in the first season. I literally, after watching all of season 1, I could not have told you her name by the end of it.
Yeah.
But now she's, ingrained in my head, which is so great. Love that for this show and for the actress Adria Arjona. I think that's how you say her name.
Okay.
Yeah, she's just done some really powerful work this season.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe if I just wasn't clocking her game in the first season, not that I'm particularly looking forward to it, but give me maybe a year if I ever want to come back to this show and see how I feel about season 1.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see how much it feels different to me.
She was great in Blink Twice and Hitman. I loved her. She was fun.
And I also had the realization in these episodes that she was the love interest in Morbius.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she was.
Well, I love that she's working.
Oh,
and also, I wanted to see her be a hot baddie.
Yeah.
Vampire girl.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love that she got a paycheck from that movie.
For sure.
Moving on.
Some cons that I put. The con I have listed. That is what I'm talking about with season 8 or episode 8.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So
and I agree.
A plot line, or at least part of a plot line that's been going on throughout this whole season that gets a very very quick and final end.
Yeah.
So, and it ends on a really weird note for me. It's hard to go deeper into it without being spoilery. So, whenever we go into spoilers, that'll probably be one of my earlier conversations.
Yeah.
So
That'll be like the 3, 2, 1. This happened. So.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like they were setting something up that I think was going to be really interesting, and I think exploring something really important, which I think they still do explore something important, but then they, instead of going into something slightly more constructive with it, it kind of ends on a bad note.
Yeah, it just ends.
Yeah, and it ends on a worse note than it ever reached the entire season until that point, I think.
I will say I only liked it because I knew it was going to hurt another character.
Sure.
But that's it. We'll get into that later.
Yeah. And then another con is, man, this entire, like, the first 6 episodes is so clearly just set up for these episodes.
Yep.
And, like, did you need 6 hours of setup for this?
No, you didn't need 6 hours, and you had room to do more interesting things.
I'd be
those 6
very
hours.
interested to
And
see
you
what
didn't.
the experience would be like if you came into this, like, maybe if you watched season 1. I think season 1 of Andor is still a very good watch.
Yeah.
I would say make sure, like, you don't have anything else you're excited to watch before you watch it.
Yeah.
But, like, it's important. There's some great episodes once you get through some, like, drag on the show, but like, every 3 episodes. Anticipate the 3rd episode every time you watch.
Being
and you're
good.
going to have a really great episode that was set up by the 2 right before it.
But then there were 6.
And then there were 6, and that feels
for
so
7,
crazy.
8, 9 instead
And
of
to
1,
be
2,
fair,
3.
I think 8
So.
and 9 both became bangers. But I would say even
Yeah.
episode 7 was a little slow. I remember it
I
ended.
agree,
I
but-
remember it ended, and I think I don't know if you remember, but I was like, oh, that's where we end.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a testament to how low my expectations have gone from this show, or from this season specifically, because by the end of episode 7, I was like, this is already better than the first 6. Now, that's not a huge compliment by any means, because then we got 8 and 9, and that's on another level, but I was like, that was already more enjoyable than the first 6. So, yeah. I don't know.
And then like I said, you really feel the runtime. I think even if you, even as someone who really enjoyed these last 2 episodes, man, it just kept going.
Yep.
And it's
My cat is getting fed. You hear? That is
I was
my
wondering what that
voice.
noise was.
Yep. Every time we film after work, we're gonna hear my voice, and it's gonna
Love
be haunting. Anyways.
Yeah, and that's all of the cons I had. Did you have anything more to add to that list?
Not that I can think of with vague stuff. Oh, the big pro for me in episode 9 was the speech.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll get into that.
There's a
later.
great speech or monologue that a character has.
Yeah.
And it's another great. It's almost like the thesis statement for this whole season.
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
I love when a monologue comes together.
Yeah, it was a good monologue. I'm like, okay, baddie, go off.
Some middle schooler
Sure.
is gonna eat giving that monologue as their audition
Oh,
piece for Hamlet or something.
Yeah, and they're gonna write. Someone's gonna write an essay about it. You just know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
So that is going to be our non-spoiler talk for Andor's episode 7 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to go into spoiler talk on these right now. So you have been warned in 3,
2, 1.
I don't. Cyril's dead.
Cyril's dead.
And there was genocide and
Big Sleeves,
Bix is
Cassian.
gone. What the hell?
Bye bye.
Mom left.
Mother. Mother.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So there was a handful of pretty big reviews. And KSO. What is it? K2SO is here.
Oh
Which is very
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
I was very excited to see
Oh,
him.
and mention of a team that Ezra Bridger was on.
Ezra
Love
mentioned.
him,
We love an
King.
Ezra mention.
Love him. Anyways,
So very, very
probably some other rebels as
cool
well.
stuff.
I just don't know. Exactly
Before
who.
we start going into the cast as we usually do, I listed a couple of the spoiler stuff I wanted to briefly touch on, just because I think that they are some really important conversations that I definitely wanted to have. So the first thing I put was there is a scene in the 7th episode. We learned that Andor has been out of mission work for a while, maybe 2 years. In one of the
Wild
episodes, we
reveal
mentioned
there.
that a wedding happened 2 years ago, and there was a wedding in episode 3 that Mon Mothma went to. So
Yeah.
if there is a 2-year gap supposedly
We're
in
like,
the middle of the show,
huh?
it definitely doesn't super feel that way.
No, at all.
So it feels very interesting.
Very
Maybe
wild.
that's supposed to be the time jump where we see Cyril living on Coruscant jumping to Gorman. Like maybe that's supposed to be kind of the indicator that it's a huge gap.
That's
but
crazy.
they definitely don't like.
I need
I don't
Star
remember, like,
Wars.
a time card.
You know, I need Star Wars to get over themselves and start putting more time cards and location cards because I don't know where I am half the time. I don't know what year it is half the time. What's going on?
And now we have to talk about a show.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, well, let's move on.
Yeah, and so they're saying that the reason he isn't doing any of these missions is because he has a blaster wound that isn't healing.
Yeah.
And so Bix takes him to, and they're on, what the place? Yaman?
I don't know, man.
It's the
I don't
place,
know where we are.
It's the base where they go
Don't
to
know.
in A New Hope.
Yeah.
I think.
I know that. Like, I recognize it. It looks familiar. I don't know what it's called.
And that is
So.
where they are staying while he heals.
Mm-hmm.
And Bix takes him to a Force healer.
Yeah.
Which feels interesting that this show is coming up with a. Maybe it was used in like the comics or anything, but as someone who watched through all of the Clone Wars, all of the Bad Batch, all of Rebels, they never just casually had a Force person who heals and does nothing else with the Force.
Yeah.
So it feels very interesting
interesting.
to be like, oh, so this is the thing you do. So, but whatever.
I don't know, man. They're always adding lore that with their future projects, they go, here, see, it was always a thing. Yellow lightsaber, which I love the yellow lightsaber. By the way, that's not hate on that. But you never saw a yellow lightsaber before that. And then they were like, here, it was always here. Here's like 10 of them in this trailer. Same with the purple ones. They were always here. Orange, we're just going to throw them all in there. White, throw them all in there. It was always here.
Star Wars is always gaslighting us.
Well, I mean, they had in the sequels Rey heal that little creature thing.
Yes, we've
Force.
seen
But she
healing,
did other
but we
things.
haven't seen someone who specifically is like, I'm gonna use
just doing
with my
that.
Force abilities.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to med school.
Oh.
And this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I buried my lightsaber. I have like a tiny like scalpel saber.
Yeah.
A light scalpel.
That'd be funny. Oh no.
Doctor, we need you. But
Oh my
she's
God.
this clearly Force
She was
touched
fun
person.
though. Yeah.
And Andor apparently has something against people who claim to use the Force.
Okay.
I think it was something from Ferrix or the woman who was taking care of him after on the other planet. Had some
Okay.
kind of thing. So, but I think it's very interesting that he clearly has a mistrust of people who claim to use the Force. When in Rogue One we see him having to team up with that person who does talk about the Force a lot, the blind man.
Yeah.
Who I love in that movie. I wish I
Yeah.
remember his name, but so I think that's an interesting element that I'd love to see if that's incorporated in that role, and I just didn't catch that, or if I'm just misremembering something. But I think it's really interesting, and I love the scene of her catching him, kind of in the distance, like she centers on him and walks up and is like, "You feel important, and you're in pain. I can feel you're in pain."
Yeah.
And so she like does her thing to heal him, and Andor is scared off. He goes away, and Bix has the great line of, "You scared him." The healer says, "I didn't mean to." She says, "That's really hard to do, actually." So, and then she's asking her, "What did you see?" And she says that he is really important, and that he is a messenger. And I think that's one of those really great things that really sets up the like
Rogue One stuff.
incomingness of Rogue One,
Yeah.
and the idea that that he has so much weighing for him in his destiny throughout the universe, in this universe, that he is going to sacrifice himself to defeat the Empire. and like what an impact that has, that he so early on had this faith that clearly the Force is guiding him to,
Yep.
and he's going through stuff that sets him up to make that sacrifice. And even here you see some big strides to get him ready to make that sacrifice. With Bix leaving, which I think they set up really well, and then with like him questioning what he's fighting for, and he doesn't want to give his life for that. Trying to get him to a place where this is someone who is okay with losing it all for this bigger idea of something that's so much bigger than himself. And it just makes him feel so important.
Yeah.
And I think
it makes Bix's decision for the both of them all the more interesting, because she's saying, I recognize that you need to do this for the greater good. I need us to win, and in order to do that, you have to go down this path, and you're not going to do that if I'm here. So I'm leaving, and I'll find you later. And that's just so like, it's so like well written, but also heart wrenching, and it's just
it's so awesome because because it's something that can so easily be written off as, this is a selfish move. She's putting her beliefs in front of their relationship. But it's not. It's that they both know this is right, and they both wanted to get involved in some capacity. Clearly hers was deeper than his. But she sees so much in him and so much potential that she knows that her presence there is going to inhibit him from being this turn in the tide for something that they both clearly care about. And so it's not like even a selfish choice, it's a sacrifice that she's making. And it's
very
and then the
powerful.
idea that we know that it'll never pay off for them in their relationship, it just makes it so it's heartbreaking. Ugh,
The whole like, I'll find you later, and I'm like, I'm like sobbing. I'm like, what
it's like the Mr. Incredible meme where it's like, those who know.
Oh my gosh. But it is, and I'm actually very happy they didn't just kill her off. I'm so glad that's not her ending.
It reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where you make a send-off that isn't death. Still be really impactful.
That was such a good send-off.
Really well. So it's
also very sad. But, yeah.
So I think that was all done really well. And then we finally see, maybe not exactly the end result, but definitely the start of the Gorman genocide. So the entire episode 8 shows that they are trying to set up this big protest. They're massing up barriers and clearly pushing up the amount of stormtroopers and empirical officers that are on the scene. And then they start hoarding all of these people who are screaming like, we are here, the cameras are on us right now so they can see us, and we're going to speak to the Empire or to the universe that we do not want you here because you are doing horrible things to us.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things that they've mentioned in the show, that this planet and its people are not going to go quietly. Like, it's not a thing where you can just have them leave when you destroy their planet to mine for what they're mining for. So you knew that they were going to make a scene. And so in order to control the narrative, like, you have to paint it where it makes you look good. And so that's what they're doing here. They're not trying to, prevent a scene. They're not trying to prevent slaughter. Like, they're very much doing that, but they want to do that, but they need to do it in a way that makes them look good to the right people. And I think that's a really interesting, a sad idea, but I feel like that was set up really well.
Yeah, and it like is
You really
just so
well.
like almost nightmarish how it just perfectly reflects the things that we're seeing today. And the idea that you're putting this population in a place where like they have to do something or else they're gonna die. And then you react to their reaction as like a threat.
You threaten them and come into their home.
Attack, whether it's physical or in the way that you govern them.
You do that, and then you're mad that they react poorly. Like, duh, of course they were going to react poorly. Not just, be a mat to walk on. and then you attack them because they're reacting poorly, and then still try to paint that as, oh well, they're the terrorists, they're attacking us. I'm like,
But
you're
then for
on
the
their
But
planet.
then for
That's
the Empire,
wild.
it works. And
Yeah.
I think you also see that works
Yeah.
in real life.
Mm-hmm.
With even when it's not done nearly as well as it is
Yep.
in this show.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's even a testament to how little work you actually have to do
Mm-hmm.
to kind of pull off this stuff as righteous or the right
Yep.
thing to do.
Yep.
So it just feels very like
When we
feels
figure
crazy
out
how quick this script had to get written
mm-hmm.
compared to like how recent some of the events related
Right.
to this happened.
You're like, wow, they were on it. It's insane when you as a viewer figure out what they're doing. When you figure out that they're, like, how are they going to get out of this? Like, what's the plan here? And you figure out what they're doing. They're controlling the narrative by shooting one of their own, but painting it as they attacked us first, so we can, just slaughter them because they quote unquote they killed us.
Yeah, and I really
They started it.
I actually really liked the note that Dedra had whenever they were bringing in the troops, and she's like, "Who are these people?" And it's like, they're the new unit, and she's like, "These are children." And I think it's actually also a very poignant point that, when you're on the side of people who are trying to control the narrative and trying to push that, like, the other people are the problem.
Yeah.
And here you put their enforcers in.
Yeah.
And they're these like boys who
Yeah.
don't know better.
Yeah.
And they're undertrained. You're clearly putting them in so that they can do the wrong thing. But because they have the authority you granted them, they can do no wrong, and they're going to be the ones who. I don't know. I think that was done really well, and that isn't even a point that they were super trying to drive home. I think that was just a really very true to life tactic that they incorporated in.
I agree.
Some other stuff I did.
Like a certain figure trying to do horrible things to the Department of Education and using children to be in his little video for it, clapping. I'm so, like, I have my fist up. I'm so ready. I hate that. Just grinds my gears so much. So many levels.
I think it is interesting. Speaking of children, I did think it was interesting that they didn't go as far as to show children were in the square.
Yeah. That is one thing you pointed out. You were like, have we seen a single child on Gorman?
I've ever seen a child actually
Where
on the planet
are
of Gorman.
For the children.
literally
children.
WandaVision. Wanda, where are all the children? Oh, stop it.
Stop it. Stop asking silly questions. Anyways.
That's so funny. But, another big point of these conversations in the real world is that a lot of children are involved in that.
Yeah.
And I think another interesting thing that they didn't also take is that a lot of reporters who are trying to get the truth out there are also involved in these kinds of attacks and massacres. So it's interesting that they have reporters there, but they're there on the side of the Empire, and you don't even see one trying to call it like it is.
Yeah. Not even one.
I think that's an interesting note if you wanted to hit home even more. But
that kind of leads right into the speech, though.
It does, but before that, what I
Okay.
did want to talk about, and the thing in episode 8
Oh,
that I
yeah,
think
yeah,
was
the
done
con.
poorly
Yeah.
was ultimately the death of Cyril.
Yeah.
I think throughout watching episode 8, I remember you reacting to Dedra and Cyril's reaction to everything happening very like, well, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of that is very purposeful, and I think it's also I think it speaks a lot of volumes to the real world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very much so.
I was really hoping...
You're like, oh, you voted for a fascist and you're surprised that he's acting like a fascist? That's very real life. Very real life. And it's kind of what it is.
With Cyril specifically, and I think we see the start of a similar arc with Dedra, the idea of, at least with Cyril, I think Dedra is possibly in a little bit of a different space, but
Yeah.
Cyril, I think, considers himself a good person.
Yeah.
And he has grown up in this space where the Empire is the good side, and everyone who is against the Empire is bad and wrong because all he hears is the Empire's side. Some would say propaganda, but their arguments, and that is all he's ever heard and it's all he's been receptive to.
He thinks that the Empire is maintaining the peace.
And so, but then he's forced into a place for this mission for Dedra, where he is forced to see them as humans and forced to be among them, and he thinks he's there on a righteous mission to stop the people that he was after in his last job. He thought he was after people like Cassian and these outside rebels who were trying to like build up stuff to topple the government because they want chaos and whatnot. And then you see that it's people that have really valid concerns and people who aren't even a part of this bigger thing, and it's there's just a reason so many people are finding truth in that movement and the idea that he was betrayed by his partner, who he clearly had so much respect for, and to see her as a complete monster and to go as far as to like threaten her and literally attack her was crazy. Never thought that was going to come from him, but it's very true that her actions get her to a point where she's like almost so removed. It's like it's hard to classify yourself as a human at that point. And then he goes back out there because he reaches his point where he just sees the truth, and it's ugly, and he's, you know, it feels like it's the point. What I was hoping that they were going for is the point of why, like, what do you do with a paradigm shift, which is you have this thought and this reasoning of how the world works and your place in it, and then you're forced to see that it's not that. And what do you do when everything that you know is not true? And that's definitely here, and you see him just in this massacre, and you see him like trying to wrap his mind around it. And the idea that he had such a big play in it, you can clearly see that weighs on him so much. And then he learns that this side that he was working for, like, this could have happened on his planet. This could have happened to any planet. And it would not have mattered who, what, when, or where the situation was. I think it's important to remember how someone treats someone is how they would treat anybody. So, and I think it's just, you hate to see that people don't realize that. And so it feels like he's supposed to be on this thing where it's like, what do you do when you've done so much wrong? Like, and it feels like he's almost on his Thunderbolts arc to be like, is there something you can do to make any of that worth it?
Well, and he, you know, it's weird because he didn't even realize he was doing wrong. But then he is, like you said, he's having a total shift where he's realizing everything he thought he was doing for good was actually for bad. Where do you go from here?
And it feels so much like he's supposed to find Cassian, and he sees Cassian. And then he goes right back into season 1 and attacks him because that's what he thought he was here to do. And I can understand that. And then, but I do think it's a little like, guys, whenever he like stops and it's like, who are you? He's just like, guys, we got bigger problems. Like, Cassian, you have bigger problems here than wondering who this guy is. And then he gets shot point blank. And Cyril gets shot point blank, and it's like,
that idea just ends.
So
we don't have anywhere to go from
so
here.
That's just it. He like starts thinking he was wrong, and then that's his entire arc. And the entire reason he was in these past 2 seasons. Like, it feels like it should be on this like bigger arc to like why people within the Empire switched to the rebellion. And like it reminds me of a line that we'll talk about in The Last of Us, actually. The line of like, why do you think that you're going to beat us? Every day someone from your side defects to us, and you've never seen anyone leave us for you. And I think it's similar that we're having that conversation later, but you see shadows of that here specifically in this plot line. And it feels like it could have been really powerful if they explored that more. But then they just didn't.
Nope.
I would say that I would go as far to say as they fridge him for whatever they're planning to do with Dedra. But Dedra feels too sociopathic to everyone else for it to really have any kind of impact that clearly Cyril was having.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I do think it's interesting that, you know, this whole massacre that she's doing doesn't faze her until someone she knows is in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that is a horrible
it's
thing
so
to do,
real
right?
world. That's so real world.
And I think whenever her scene of reacting to the fact that Cyril was out there and likely gonna die, go for it.
I think, because I kept comparing this episode to the Hunger Games. It's like when the Capitol didn't see what was wrong with doing a Hunger Games until, like, they were threatened. It's like, this is kind of explored in tiny, tiny ways in the new book. I'm not going to go into details or names or anything like that in case you haven't read it. But there is a character that is, like, wealthy, but not, like, in the capital. But they thought they were secure enough to, like, not be picked, and they were. And I think that's very interesting. I'm like, oh, so now you don't like it. Interesting. It's almost as if it was always wrong. But yeah, it is interesting how it's like, it's hard to think about. It's crazy to think about because you're like, why on earth did you not see that? But I was thinking about this earlier today because it's like when you're a nice person and someone's mean to you or someone else and you just can't fathom why they would do that. That's because you would never do that. That's because you're not mean and you would never say that or do that. It's the same thing. It's like you can't fathom why people can't see those perspectives is because you do. You see those perspectives. So you have empathy. Congratulations. You have basic empathy. But a lot of people don't. So kind of crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it's important to show that it's especially like specifically with Dedra's scene, that it is a hypocritical response.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Like, now
it's almost like it's infuriating to see that response because you're like, you're an idiot. Like you are helping implement a genocide, but you're upset that someone you love is stuck in the middle of that. I'm like, one, it's what you deserve because you're an idiot for not seeing that perspective.
You single-handedly caused this to happen.
Yep. It's your fault. You deserve anything bad that happens to you at this point. But it's also just like, this is what it took for you to see another perspective. It's wild.
I don't know. I think,
but it's very realistic.
I think it is very realistic
it's
to
not
have
like,
these paradigm shifts actually happen. It is some big major thing that's like officially it's something you can't turn away or lie about because it's just so like
in your
screaming
face.
you in the face and you have to deal with it because it's something so impactful. It's and I think because I watched that scene of her reacting and I don't feel empathy for her at all.
No,
but I
you're
think
supposed to like
but it's
hate
very
her
important
in that
to
scene.
See it happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's because, like I said, it's very like we're saying, it's very realistic.
But especially considering Cyril's death, and I just so thought they were leading into him being a spy for the empire, for the rebellion within the empire. I don't know. I thought that would have been really interesting. We'll see. I'm very interested to see how Dedra reacts going forward.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. We certainly will see. Then we had. I don't know why I put that so fast, but then we're gonna go to the speech that happened. In episode 9, the episode we really liked, Mon Mothma immediately is like, we need to talk about what the Empire did in Gorman, and they are trying everything in their power to make sure that senators aren't talking about this, that everyone is talking about the propaganda and why they deserved it first, and about how the officers who were sent there to kill these people are victims. And I know that's wrong, and I'm going to lose my standing in this community. I'm going to completely blow my cover, put my family at risk, put my life at risk to put truth to the atrocities that have happened and put a word to it.
Yep.
And I think this episode is so great in the way it there's truth to words and calling things what they are.
Yep. She calls it a genocide. She calls it what it is. So, very powerful, especially nowadays.
So
So what a great speech.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about that speech. I might watch it again.
I've loved her whole performance as Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
I know you said you didn't super love the wedding. I feel like the wedding in the first part of the season was like the most Star Wars that whole part felt, because it was like super weird culture and party and lights and her dancing, her drunk dancing with all of the sway. I thought it was really fun, actually.
I don't know, man.
But I've super loved her performance, and this is like the peak of it all. And being saved by.
This is where her arc has been leading to, but
Yes.
also you know she becomes the clear puzzle piece of like, oh yeah, then she does this and this and this, and it's like straight to Rogue One, and I love that.
Yeah.
So.
And she ends up leaving with Andor and going to Yammen, the Yammen base.
Yep.
So that she can break down the plan.
Welcome to
blow
the
up
rebellion.
Death Star in
Yeah.
New Hope.
Yep.
So love that. She
Yay.
works with Bail Organa. Love to see him. He was
Yeah.
recast here.
Yeah,
As
I
someone-
think the casting was really good,
For
actually.
sure. I was really thrown off because I was like, why do I know this guy? And he's like a 3-minute role in
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. And I was like, it is crazy that I clocked his face from such a small role.
Yeah, but also like, I am surprised you thought about that, because really he just looked familiar to me, because I was like, that's just a great casting
Yeah,
choice. I'm like,
great casting.
you look like Bail Organa, and also that one lady that is not Leia, but she looks so much like, I'm like, every time I see her,
Leia.
I'm like, you could literally be Leia right now, and I would 100% believe you. I don't care if anything you've done is not Leia. I don't care if you meet Bail Organa and he doesn't know who you are. If you said you were Leia, I'd be like, you're right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you are correct. Correct queen.
Mm-hmm.
She is a queen.
Yeah, the speech is
great.
very powerful, and specifically calling out the person that the government and the senators did not have the guts to call out and call it
Yup.
like it is, and say that he is single-handedly having too much power, indirectly
Palpatine, name
resulted
drop.
in this massacre.
Yep.
And she does it to the sound of boos from the senators that showed up. The Emperor set the thing super early, so you can even see that like less than half of the senators are even there, and only the ones who were sent there to specifically talk about how the Gormans had it coming.
Yeah.
And then here she is broadcasting it to the universe, and
Yup.
it's all just really
Love
well
that.
done.
Yep. Love that for her.
And then you see the undercover person
Yeah.
who tries to kill her as she's trying to escape, and it's very thrilling.
Yeah.
You feel the stakes, and I really feel her sacrifice as well. So it's all just really,
Yeah.
it all culminates really well. We get back to the 2 Yamen, and then Bix makes the very bold choice to leave Cassian.
Yeah.
So
we already kind of talked about that. We're short on
but
time.
I did want to add to that is that
Okay.
I think
We're at an hour, just to let you know. So
Um,
sorry, guys. We
but
do still have The Last of Us.
specifically with her, I think it's really interesting to see how they set up their relationship being divided
Mm-hmm.
with, what was her name? Vel, and her love interest who died in one of the last
Okay.
couple episodes. Because they had the line of the Lutheran decided that we were stronger apart than together. And then it's Vel who goes and asks Bix to talk to Cassian to get him to where they need him to be so he can be a leader in this rebellion.
Okay.
And so I think it's interesting that they don't even like spell it out that Vel and her relationship being separated so they can both be so important and crucial to the rebellion is what Bix is doing here, and that they truly are stronger apart because they aren't inhibiting each other from fully being in it. In this cause that they both care about. It's just an element of it that I actually do really like from the setup. And, unfortunately with Vel, we see that she's the only one who makes it out of that relationship with this rebellion. So I think there is An interesting comparison there. I'd actually be interested to see if these two find each other after the mission in Rogue One.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's interesting.
That's it. And then K2SO.
And then K2SO is
Hey.
here. Ugh,
Hey,
perfect, because I
buddy.
needed to feel something better after that scene.
Yeah.
So I loved seeing him, my little sassy guy. Sometimes your little guy can punch someone across a town square.
Yeah, he's just a little guy.
Oh, but
Literally Dipper in his tail.
that's my dog.
As a dog.
And
He's got like a weapon. I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah. But I actually really like the droids, like showing how powerful they were in the
Yeah.
actual attack on Gorman.
That was crazy.
It was very
because it looked
intimidating.
like they were winning, and then they came out, and you were like, "Oh man, never mind."
Yeah.
It was kind of wild. Anyways.
And then a great line from Clea that I really liked. She's the one that you said looks like Leia. I really love.
And their names rhyme. You can't even tell me. You can't tell me.
I really loved the scene she had with Cassian when he was like, I'm leaving after this, and she's like, so what do you mean you're done with this? You're done with fighting for the freedom of the universe? And he's like, I need to be free to make my own decisions. And then she has the great line of, oh really? I thought that's what you were fighting for. It's just like.
Exactly.
Say
Queen,
it again for the people in the back.
I loved the amount of times he was getting called out for, quote unquote, wanting to do his own thing, but his own thing has been fighting for the rebellion this entire time. Whether he wants to admit that or not, that's what he's been doing, and that's, he's not going to be okay with just leaving that, even if he wants to act like it. Well, because
I think he feels so drawn to it, but he wants to commit himself to Bix over everything, which is so valid.
Mm-hmm. But then she makes the decision.
But then she makes the hard choice for them both.
Yep.
And it's so strong. And then I wanted to talk about Luthen, because we see Bix make her exit here without dying. Do you think Rogue One could possibly happen with Luthen still alive off screen? It almost feels like Lutheran dying might be the last piece in the puzzle for the Cassian that we see later. Like someone actually give the sacrifice that he's constantly talking about.
Yep.
Clearly he's the whole reason that Cassian got here in the first place. I think his death near the finale would be kind of like maybe the missing piece to the Cassian we see.
Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't be mad at it. We'll see if they do it right.
For sure.
We still have 6 bad episodes, but 2 really good ones. So
I'm very interested to see what our last 3 episodes are for.
I know. We'll see.
We certainly will. So that being said, we are now going to transition to The Last of Us for a little bit.
Yeah, we don't have near as much to say.
The non-spoilers part,
but
we didn't have a ton to say. And I yapped a lot for Andor, so I'll let you take us away.
Yeah. And I feel like there was way more to say about Andor, so
for sure.
I'm not mad about it. But this episode was fun. It had some good stuff in it.
For sure.
I'm going to go through your pros, because I also didn't add anything. But a lot of these are what mine are. Love Ellie and Dina. So many interesting things with them happened this episode. It's so... And, we asked the question. I think everyone was asking the question, who's possibly... I guess, if you're here... We're going to talk about spoilers from the rest of the season. But it's who can possibly take over for Joel? And I don't think they're trying to take over, but there needs to be, at the end of the day, something that fills that space that's interesting enough to watch. And I think that's very much them. If nothing else, I'm excited to watch them. And there's really nothing else going on that I care about, quite frankly. But they're so entangled in everything else that I'm like, I'll watch it because I love them. So, a lot of great stuff, and I'll keep it vague because then we'll go into specifics later about what happens to them and what they do and blah blah blah. What was the opening scene?
It was the scene where the Fedra car rolls up to that.
Right.
Where
Ooh, I loved
really
it.
Liked that scene.
Yeah, because it went in a direction that neither one of us was sure it was going to go in, but we were both pleasantly surprised.
And there was a little cameo there, which was very surprising. You're
like, okay, what's this actor doing here? What's he doing here? Anyways, that was fun. Isaac.
He is from
I
the
know
opening
who that is.
Yes.
Okay, he was great. We'll talk about him later.
An actor that we both, that I at least really love.
Yeah.
Basically everything he's in. I've not seen him do a performance I would say I've not loved.
He deserves more roles,
For
honestly.
sure.
He does great.
But
yeah.
loved seeing him included in this show.
Yeah. And then I liked the stealth mission as well. And it's hard to go into it without doing like spoilers. So this will be pretty short.
There is a section that feels pretty like straight out of a video game.
Yeah.
Where they have to kind of like sneak around some things.
Yeah.
And you definitely feel the tension that you would feel from like controlling it as a game. I think it transitions really well.
Yeah, I agree. Very fun. And again, we'll get into more specifics in a second. And then the truth's revealed. Something happens to a character that seems fatal. I'm really trying to be vague here. Yeah.
So great.
And the other character's like, "Oh my god, that's fatal." And the other character's like, "No. Wait.
Different ways with that one.
They're like, "No. Let me explain. Please let me explain." And then I will say, they don't really explain well.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
They're like, no, except they don't explain with words, which kind of confused me. I'm like, you're not even going to like try to explain with words first. I understand that they probably still need some proof, but you're not even going to try. Okay, whatever. But it worked out.
And then there's another truth that's revealed that gagged
Yes.
me. I think you saw it coming. I did not see that coming.
Well, because I read about it. Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't have seen it coming otherwise.
Yeah.
Because there was, no hint towards it whatsoever. But
I super loved both of those.
Mm.
I think they were really fun.
Yeah.
One of them clearly wasn't done effectively, but I think that's also very in character.
Yeah, that's actually so true. That's a good point. But it was still funny, but yeah.
And then you completely skipped over it on my pro list because I know you didn't like it. But there is a scene that people from the game.
I didn't even mean to. I really did not process that in my mind. I guess like subconsciously I was like, no.
That's really
we don't need to talk about it. I really didn't.
But I really want to talk about it. There's a scene straight out of the game with a guitar, and I understand why you don't like it.
No, it's not even its fault. Okay.
Sure.
I don't like 90% of the time. I don't like when characters sing in a TV show or a movie when it's not like a musical. I just don't like it. Diary of a Wimpy Kid has the exception when he's auditioning for the musical. I'm like, I love it. I'll eat it up. But any other time, I'm like, get this away, mute it right now. I literally hate it. I'm literally shedding tears right now.
There's for those who are listening to this on Spotify, it's a lot.
When Euphoria, when that episode, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. When I said Euphoria, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Season 2 with that one guy. I don't even know his name. When he had like the 5-minute song with the guitar, I was like, turn this off. It sucks. I need to stop.
Was doing that thing with
Dominic Fike. That's his name, I think. With Hunter Schafer.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't remember that scene at all.
Really? Good. Because it was bad. You probably blocked it out because you were traumatized. Because it was bad. He didn't even sound... It's not even the fact if they sound good or bad. Because, like Ellie sounded good. She sounded good. I was like, you have a pretty voice. You actually have a much, like, softer voice than I would have anticipated. And I love that for you. But I need you to stop singing right now. Because I am getting secondhand embarrassment. I just can't. I don't know. I have a thing. I don't know why. It's not their fault. I just have a thing.
You know what? It might be because I just also randomly burst into song, whether someone's there or not, all the time. So and a lot of the times I don't even realize it is the thing. I like have a song that I'm playing in my head, and then someone's like, "Oh, what's that song?" And I'm like, "Oh, I did not know I was saying that out loud."
You were like, "Oh, there's other people."
Right. I am in line at the CVS.
I'm not talking to the voices. There are other people here. Right. Anyways.
But I don't know. Especially lately, I think after Sinners, especially, I've been thinking about.
Oh, that's the exception, by the way.
Well,
that
I've
was
been
way
thinking
different.
about movies in like media that use songs really effectively and aren't, I would say, even aren't afraid to try and include like songs and singing and performing in their work. I have I have the Barbie soundtrack permanently in my car Blu-ray player or DVD player, CD player. I got
what
there.
an icon you got there, yeah.
And
what an iconic album right there.
For sure. And it reminds me of all of the amazing songs in movies in 2023. Like, because I remember having the thought of like, man, I can think of so many amazing songs that I've loved from movies this year. It'd be so awesome if someone made like a medley of like going through like the major songs in some of these big movies throughout the year. And it's like, oh, that would have been like, that's just how great that was. And then last year,
that's the year that really deserved the best original song performances at the Oscars.
And then we had this last year.
And then we had
like,
this last year.
We'll nominate you, but we don't want to hear these songs.
And you know what? I want them to bring the performances back, if nothing else, for the Zootopia song. I'm so excited. If that song is not good, I might just like pass away. I literally can't. I need it to be good because the first one was so good.
Now, and then the Oscars also pissed me off because they didn't nominate either of the two original songs from Wild Robot, which I absolutely adore.
I'm like, you had good options. Yeah.
And I would love to see that performed live. But if I had to listen to El Mal, the winner of that freaking Oscar, be performed live,
oh my God,
I would have turned it off.
Yeah.
I would have.
You would have felt what I felt in every single one of those singing scenes.
That's not even fair.
It is.
It is. For El Mal.
Okay, that's not true. Because that would not even have sounded good.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's such a horrible song. But anyways.
Whew. Anyways.
What a horrible.
So I don't know. I really liked the song they did here. It also reminds me.
It was a different song than the game. Apparently, the game was more like of an original, or at least the person that in our friend group that has played the game said
he said he thinks it was.
He said
the song.
No.
Did you know it's different?
Yeah, he said it was different. He
said afterwards. No, because he Googled it, and I think he said that he just didn't remember what the song was.
Oh,
so
I'm surprised he wouldn't have. Like, that's an iconic song. It's "Take on Me."
He's forgetful.
True. But I'm still. He's like, I really liked the song.
But I really like the song, and I really
That's
like.
Funny.
I don't know. I like it when songs do like quiet versions, or like. I really like it whenever they like change up the like vibe of the song.
Yeah.
And it also reminds me so much of the scene from Deadpool 2, with Deadpool and Vanessa in the afterlife, and they play that song, and it hits there, and it hits me really hard here because also you see the characters reacting to it emotionally as well, and it's like, I can't blame you.
You're like, I get it, I understand. I mean, I wish I did, but it's fine.
But yeah, I really like that scene.
I'm sorry, I'm just a hater.
I think it could have been cut a little shorter for sure, but yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
I'm not surprised. It's on HBO.
Go ahead.
Or it's on Max, sorry. Oh my God, we're going to get sued. Anyways. What do you mean, go ahead? What am I supposed to say?
I don't know.
The cons?
Next thing.
Okay, we're at the cons. I'm being put on in the spotlight or whatever.
On our two-person podcast.
Feel like we need to start feeling something about Abby.
Okay, well.
I'm sorry, that's not what you sound like.
No,
I'm sorry.
No.
Wait. Okay, you said normal voice. Feel like we need to start feeling something about Abby sooner rather than later.
Well, because you remember what I was saying where, like, if we're supposed to feel sympathetic for Abby, you should probably start doing that pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a theory that apparently they may do like the whole third season. There's something that happens where Abby is involved. We're going to keep it vague because you don't know what's happening and a lot of other people don't know what's happening. Where Abby's involved and then it like apparently in the game, and I'm just taking what I've read from Twitter, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm sorry if it's wrong. It's not my fault. Anyways.
No one has ever reacted to our podcast that negatively for you to act that way. Love the viewers.
I'm waiting for it to happen because I know it's going to happen to me first. I just know I'm going to get
it will. I would also
I'm going to get the first hater. here's our first hater. Okay.
It's me. I'll make
It's
a t-shirt.
already happened. I knew it. Okay. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, where the third season might be from her perspective, or mostly from her perspective.
That sounds like
I
a
don't know.
bad idea on paper. That
I don't
sounds like
know,
a
man.
really bad idea on paper.
I don't disagree with you.
Like, you'd have to have a
But-
really good cliffhanger to make
There's
people want to tune in for that.
Oh, that is true. It'd be a very dramatic cliffhanger, but I feel like it would just piss people off more, actually.
That's the
I'm
thing.
thinking about
Like,
what's happening.
That's why you
so.
have to get on top of the let's make people feel better about Abby.
Yeah.
Because, especially if you're going to split this into 2 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
like, you need to make sure your people still want to see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
If you're going to pitch a season 3 where Abby's the main character,
Yeah.
maybe make sure that they don't hate her guts still.
Yeah. Although, hey, we had, Gilmore Girls, and half the people hate Rory on that show, which, yeah, I tried watching that show, didn't even make it a season because she's insufferable. A lot of people hate Elena Gilbert from Vampire Diaries. Personally, she never really bothered me, but, I mean, people, hate her guts, man. She's the main character for most of the series, and it lasted 8 seasons, and I don't even know how many Gilmore Girls lasted, but several, so... I don't know, man. I don't know. But also TV was way different back then.
For
you didn't
sure.
have to wait 2 or 3 years for a new season. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I totally agree with you. I'm just saying what I've read. But yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and then my last con that I listed was that I really hope that the WLF versus the
Wolf.
Seraphites thing that they have going on, I really hope that's important to something in the game outside of it just existing.
Yeah.
Because it feels very much like... And this is also happening because they...
I think that's also partially where Abby comes in, but I forgot what side she's on, or maybe she's
she'd
not
be
on
the
either
wolf
side. I don't know,
Well,
man.
I would think so. anyways.
I don't know. I have no idea, man. But I want to say that she's involved in certain ways. Again, gonna be very vague. But we haven't seen her yet. We haven't even got a hint or a tease or anything. So
We saw Manny.
yeah,
the last
that's
episode.
true. That's the closest thing we've done.
But, yeah, any other cons that you had?
I don't think so. I liked it. I thought
Per-
it was good. I thought it was a pretty good episode. I was
Alright.
like, whatever.
So we're gonna get into the spoiler territory.
Yeah.
I guess there's a couple spoilers.
Yeah.
2 big ones, I would say.
2 big
So,
ones.
You have been warned. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Mother.
Mother?
Mother.
We're not even talking about Ellie. That's father.
That is father.
We're talking about Tina.
That's
Mother. Mother.
Peeing on
she's
everything she finds
pregnant.
in the pharmacy.
What does she find in the pharmacy?
The gazillion pregnancy tests that she pees on.
Oh,
I
right,
remember- Do you
right.
remember my joke? And I'm just repeating it so that the audience can hear how funny I am.
Mm-hmm. Right,
It's like,
right.
how do you know you're pregnant? Well, when we were in there, I found this and I peed on it. And she was like, but, this is really old. And then I peed on this one. And then this one. And here's a roll of paper towels I found that I peed on. And it's like, girl,
Oh my God.
you peed on all these tests. We could have told us to pull over. We're in Seattle. There's a bathroom in every other store.
She said, well, I didn't want to waste
I was
it.
really hydrated.
She said, I wanted it to go towards something, Might as well take a pregnancy
Might
test.
as well make it go towards baby.
Okay. Sure, that's how that works. That's totally how that works.
Pregnancy.
Right. No, yeah, I thought it was a good reveal. I was excited for it to happen. That's why I told you to stay off Twitter until we watched the episode, because I opened Twitter and I saw Mother, and I
I
went.
didn't actually see that
okay,
at all.
okay.
I was on Twitter that day. I was paging my first screen that I saw because Marvel Rivals was having
Right.
some updates that I really wanted to see.
Okay.
So I was looking at that, actually completely off point. But Squirrel Girl is getting a skin this week, tomorrow, I think.
Okay.
And it's a beach scene for the beach of Krakoa. And
Slay.
she has the it isn't the espresso hat. But it says Doreen, her name on it,
Oh.
instead of espresso.
I love that for her. She
love
would
that.
listen to Sabrina Carpenter.
Absolutely. She's working.
Now
lady.
I can so picture
'Cause
that.
she's a squirrel.
I'm working late because I have squirrels.
Anyways, back on point.
Anyways, I know. Why didn't I get embarrassment from that? I should, because I get embarrassment from other people. Anyways, we'll self-reflect on that later.
I wanna push you up. There we go.
Okay, but that
You
was
feel it?
funny. That whole every time a song was used or singing in that movie, it was great. Anyways, moving on.
But speaking of the guitar scene, I guess we kind of. Oh, another element that I really liked about it was that, and they talk about it in the after, like how it was made, and they talk about like there being like almost an exact moment that you can tell that Dina officially is like, "Yep, this is going to be the father of my child."
Yep.
And I'm right there with like. I'm like, oh, they're so in
You
love.
can see it, yeah.
Ugh, the
Yeah.
chemistry just in their looks is off the charts.
Yeah.
And then I think also just the backdrop and the like grown over music shop, it all just is a really beautiful sight.
Mm-hmm.
So, the amazing chemistry.
They survive a lot of things this episode.
They find a newsroom, and the Seraphites have cut open and hung up a bunch of WLF soldiers.
Wild.
And then they come in, and then they have to hide game style and sneak out until they have to kill someone.
It was
and then
so
shut
game
it.
style. I loved it.
It was.
I was like, yeah.
It felt like that could have been really lame. It was not even
It
a
was
little
not.
bit.
It really did feel like, okay, go, go, go. They're not looking, they're going. Like, you could feel yourself, like, moving the controller.
And then they find all of the clickers in the subway. And then that chase scene was really creepy.
That's wild.
Love seeing Mazombos.
Yep.
And then we have the sacrifice. And
Ellie.
Dina is about to get bit by one of the zombies, and through the bars, Ellie reaches out and she takes the bite instead. And then you see Dina thinking that she just killed herself for her. I love the way Ellie
Dina killed that whole, like, after scene. Every single, like, you just, my eyes were locked on her the whole time.
I love how she was
killed that.
I think it's funny how Ellie just wasn't even thinking about explaining it.
No.
And she was just like, okay, well, next week I have to make sure I get the eggs from the store. It's, and now you're pointing again at me. Right.
Right. You don't know.
That's the
You
perfect
would
moment to
be
like,
freaked out by that.
Right.
No, like, that was great. That was really well done by both of them.
And so,
Ellie would be, like, one of the people that would forget about that and be like, right, I did forget. My
right,
bad.
1 in a million,
Let me explain.
I can't be killed by zombies.
Right.
But I can, but no, I don't become them.
You
It's
would be freaked out by that. Let me explain. Allow me to explain.
Oh, and I thought it was so sweet. I would die for you.
Yeah.
I just did not hear.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That was good.
It's so
Yeah.
good. I wonder how it does. Do you know how they do it in the game?
No.
Because I'd be
No
interested
idea.
to see how that compares.
I haven't seen a cutscene for that one. I don't know.
But I love the way they do it. I love the thing where it was actually really funny where she's like, okay, I believe you. Let me put down this flashlight I'm holding, pick up this lantern, walk slowly closer to you, and reveal that I am a mother. Weary traveler.
I'm pregnant. She said I needed the right lighting for this reveal.
There?
I needed to make sure I was serving face, glowing pregnant skin.
It was a really
I love
funny
it.
moment. It was just that didn't need to happen, but I really enjoyed that it
It was
did.
funny. Yeah, it was great. A little great
It was
addition.
an odd choice, but it didn't. Well, it maybe took me out a little bit, but I was still definitely in it when she revealed that she was mother.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
You're like,
whoa!
okay. Yeah.
Stakes have risen.
Mm-hmm.
So super love that. Love the way they talk about like it's Jesse's, but I want to have this baby with you. And she's like, cool. We have a weird family, but I love it.
I'm gonna be a dad. I loved that.
That's the energy.
Okay.
I don't know. I love the energy, especially as someone who comes from a blended family.
Yeah.
I love that they're already just on board where it's like, yep, we come from a commune. We're gonna raise this family as a commune.
Yep. You said I'm on board. I know a lot has happened. I'm on board.
Yeah.
I love that for them.
And then I also wanted to talk quickly about Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright.
He was great.
Love Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Super excited to see him in the show. I'm going to assume he's going to be sort of like an overarching season villain. I think it's really interesting. The opening scene is him coming in with Fedra. Josh Peck from Drake and Josh is
that
talking
was a
about...
fun little reveal there. I was like, what are you doing here?
He's talking about...
Ariana, what are you doing here?
How Fedra is just, like, super proud about the way they attack their citizens.
Yeah.
And they take away their rights. And then some person in the car is like, so wait, why do we call them voters? And then Jeffrey Wright is like, well, we took away their right to vote.
So we're mocking them. Because we suck.
And then he goes to where he's going. He sees Cassie's mom. And then he's like, well, you're cooler than the guys in the car, so I'm going to kill them. And he just chucks the grenades in there.
Cassie's mom from Euphoria, guys. There's not a character that I can remember from Last of Us named Cassie.
Correct.
Yeah. Loved seeing the queen. Love her.
Didn't even have to say a line.
Nope.
We're interested to see if she'll come back. I would hope so if you casted her, because she's
Hope
great
so.
in that show.
Yeah. I don't know.
But
We'll see.
super loved it. And I think it was really interesting to see them talk about Jeffrey Wright's character, where he turns his back on Fedra because he's so disgusted by the way that they, like, take away people's rights. And then cut to years later, I think they even say, like, 14 years later. And then here he is, the head of the WLF, and he's doing essentially the same us versus them thing with WLF and the Seraphit fights. So I think it's very purposeful in this show that's very about, you know, continuing cycles of violence. And yeah, it's interesting. He tried to get out of it and do the right thing, and yet he still finds himself...
in the cycle.
Quite in it.
Yep.
I don't know if I was going to say worse, but I actually don't. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because at least beforehand, he wasn't inherently the one doing it. Here we see him straight up torturing someone.
Yep. I also really liked that scene, as, like, gruesome as it was, because of the whole, like, it's not a situation where it's like one person is clearly winning. I mean, one side clearly has more resources than the other, but, like, the Seraphites are so religious that they're like, you can kill us all we want, we're still gonna exist, and people from your side are coming over to our side, but that's not happening in reverse.
Yeah.
So I feel good about us, like, you're not gonna get rid of us easily, and I love that. That's so
that's
interesting.
a great line.
Yeah. And the whole, like, because at one point Isaac holds a really hot pan to the guy's hand, like, to burn him, and he's like, well, I'm going to keep doing this until you tell me what I want to know. And he just holds his other hand
and then
up.
he turns around and he already has his hand held out.
Yep.
And then I love the scene where he, like, just pulls out his gun and shoots him point blank because he knows that he won't break him.
Yep.
I thought that was all really well done.
Yep. I agree. I think that just makes for two really interesting sides. So
Yeah.
I'm like already a little more interested in both sides, for sure.
That was a really great scene. And I don't know who the other actor is, but he holds his own
really
with
well.
Jeffrey Wright. So
Yeah, he did really
that's
well.
very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope they continue to give Jeffrey Wright really great scenes because I love him.
Yeah.
Him and Coleman Domingo both need to earn their Oscars.
Way too many people need to earn their Oscars, honestly.
But did you ever watch American Fiction?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Really good. I loved that movie. Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting that we've recently been watching stuff with Jeffrey Wright, Issa Rae, and Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah.
Some great talent from that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, love that it's an Oscar-winning movie.
Mm-hmm.
So earned that.
I was also thinking about that I saw, like, an edit for Top Gun Maverick. Love that movie. And somebody brought this up. I think you did, where you were like, I keep forgetting how stacked that cast was. I feel like you said that.
Sure.
Maybe somebody else. And I was like, a lot of them have gone on to get a lot of work since then. Like, heck, Glenn Powell, Monica, I don't know how to say her last name, but she literally got nominated for an Oscar for A Complete Unknown.
Mm-hmm. Bob.
Now the Bob guy. Oh, what is his name?
Falcon, Danny Ramirez in The Last of Us.
Right. I'm like, that cast was great. And then, of course,
Tom Cruise or whatever.
well, yes, I was going to say the other guy. Goose's son.
Oh, Miles Teller.
Rooster. Yeah. What, he was
Actually
already.
feels like he's done the least amount of stuff after
Well,
that movie.
since then, but he was already
He was
more
in The Gorge.
established than the rest of them. So
Gorge.
I think he's fine. But yeah, Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today. It's very fun when you see a movie that you watch with a great cast and then they're all going on to do great things. It just feels really fun.
You know, it's funny.
You're like,
'cause
I love
literally
when Hollywood works as it's supposed
You
to.
see, I actually had the like reverse of that whenever we watched Black Bag the other day.
Really?
And I was like, wait a minute. I'm just now realizing I know everyone in this cast
Yeah.
from really great projects that I remember their characters from. I just
Yeah.
didn't realize they were the same person.
Yep.
I feel like
Yep.
so many people look like different people in that movie.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like even the guy from Bridgerton.
Reggae Gene Page, I think is how you say his
I
name.
feel like every other scene, his character, like I don't know if it was the lighting or something, but he just looked like a different person. Like,
Well, he looks
throughout the movie.
way different, which for our listeners, he has not seen Bridgerton. You've seen him in Dungeons and Dragons though, and he does look like he has a different haircut. I mean, I can definitely still tell it's him. I don't think his face has ever changed for me, but he has a different like hairstyle.
Cool.
But he looks a lot like his Bridgerton character. He just wears, more modern clothes. Yeah. He talks the exact same in like everything he's in though, which I feel like is starting to bother me.
Sure.
I don't know.
Part of acting is how you move and how you talk. So
It's like Kate Blanchett can talk how she talks forever, and I will never mind because I love her voice. But he doesn't have that voice. I'm like, I want to hear something different. I want to hear you not be British, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just he sounds so similar in everything he's in. So that's fine. But anyways, we're not talking about that. But yeah.
Is there going
great.
forward? Because that's all the notes we had.
Yeah.
If I had to guess what's happening next, I actually don't even remember what the next on section was. Did we even watch that?
I think so.
It's not a great sign. I don't remember
No.
a single thing from the next time on.
I don't either. Maybe we didn't watch it.
I know we
I
watched
hope
the
we
like how
didn't.
it was made thing.
Yeah, that's why I thought we would have watched the onward thing.
Oh.
Gosh, I don't remember.
That's a little
I'm
crazy, actually.
embarrassed. I'm sorry,
Guys,
guys.
not on
I'm
the
sorry.
podcast.
I don't know what's happening next.
Guys, I'm
Well,
slowly,
okay.
I swear.
Okay, but just going in blind, what do you think might happen from here?
Okay, so I would assume at this point, considering they've only been here for 2 episodes, I feel like it would be weird not to build off of the Seraphite Wolf thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would assume they eventually like find the Seraphites and kind of get their story.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like we need to know more about the Seraphites
like,
first.
especially since they're clearly trying to be like, and now's the Seraphite chapter.
Yeah.
It's like I feel okay. Can I know a little bit more if we're gonna spend so much time talking about these people?
Yeah, I feel like they've set that up well. Like, I want to know about them. I want the next episode to
I
be
didn't
about
love
that.
them in the first episode, but the second one it sets an interesting precedent.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
hopefully they have actors that are good to represent it. I think that's
Yeah.
always very important
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to try and introduce a new concept into something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the actor in the scene with Jeffrey killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Killed him.
Oh.
So hopefully they have someone really strong to
Yeah.
kind of keep our interest there,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're going to be there.
Yeah.
I would, man,
We
I
only
feel like
have
we
3
gotta see-
episodes left.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Such a short show.
I would say we gotta see at least some part of Abby. Like, maybe not even necessarily Abby, but like someone from her team has to like push them in the right direction.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I wish it wasn't split into 2 parts and you just had a little bit of a longer season 2.
I'm tempted
Crazy.
to agree. Like, you'd have to have a lot of substance in the 3rd season to
Like,
convince me that
why
was a good
7
idea.
episodes? Why? Just do 14.
Yeah.
It's fine. Most of your shows have 10 episodes anyways. It's not that much more.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like it's
weird.
hard. It's hard for me to believe that it would be more expensive and inconvenient to film 7 more episodes versus
Than to
an
do a whole nother
entire
season.
yeah.
That's very fair.
Because I don't even know if they've written the script yet. That's the problem. That's why these shows take so long to get a new season, is because they don't even start the script until after the entire season has already come out. That's such a bad precedent. That's why it's so awesome when something like Severance or The Pit, like, you get greenlit so early, so then you just start right away. I love that.
We shall see. I think.
Just believe in projects again.
Oh, I was gonna compare it to something, but I completely forgot what I was gonna say. Embarrassing. Yeah, that's it.
And you're done. You're done. Because I forgot what I was gonna say, so you're done.
Yeah, so I think that's everything to be said about The Last of Us.
You're gonna like remember in an hour, and we're gonna have to come back
Probably.
and film it. It's gonna be great.
I will say we have some very exciting episodes coming forward that we're really looking forward to, so keep an eye out for those.
We're gonna do a Severance video. Finally, we finished it, guys.
Severance, we have a lot to say on it.
And then Paradise, we have both officially
Also
finished
Paradise, which is really fun.
And then what else? We have caught up on so much, guys. We're catching up so much.
What was the other video?
Anyways,
and
Mission
then
Impossible.
We're gonna catch up on how we feel about the Mission Impossible franchise.
I'm actually very excited to do that because at first, early on, I was thinking, yeah, we would just watch it, and then when the new one comes out, we'll talk about that, and then do like a ranking at the end. But I'm like, I really want to talk about them.
A lot of them could easily be their own episodes. But I think condensing them into like a building block into this final outing, I think it's gonna be really fun.
And then we can do a ranking and then update it when the new one comes out.
Sure.
Yeah. That's exactly what that sounded like.
And then it's also a very weekend for us.
Yeah.
Here with movies, so
because
here we are with
the one
all of the
new
show
release
content.
is Shadow Force.
And we don't
and some
get that.
Clown movie.
Clown in the Cornfield.
I've never even seen a trailer for that. We were getting all these trailers about Shadow Force, which actually looks good, and yet we're not getting that. We're getting some stupid clown movie. I'm not even gonna see it.
I probably will, but we probably won't talk about it. You know what? If I do see it before we film one of the episodes, I'll talk about it for like 5 seconds in one of the episodes.
Scary.
I'll be like, there was a cornfield,
and there was
a clown in it.
There's a lawyer, and he's blind. Daredevil. Anyways.
There's us, and it's The Last of Us.
It's okay. A for effort.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Oh my gosh.
Please stay tuned for all of that fun content coming forward. Let us know what you think of Andor and the latest episode of The Last of Us.
I'm literally... I'm like that lady. Have y'all seen? I think it's like Judge Judy or something, where it's like these these two sisters are like suing each other, and they're like, Your Honor, she did this and this and this, and the other sister's just like, if you can watch on YouTube right now, you'll probably know what I mean, but it's just like, that's my brain right now. I'm just like,
clearly.
I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Oh, anyways, let's be done.
I agree.
Sorry,
so thank you guys so much for watching. I'm your host, Luke.
And I'm your other host, Alicia.
And thank you guys so much for watching Alicia break down on camera.
Yay! It won't be the last time. It'll be great. Bye.